I'm told that Ed and Caitlin are standing by with Andrew Yang. Go ahead.
We are, Elaine. Thank you again. Mr. Yang, good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
How do you think tonight went?
I think it went phenomenally well. We got to wake Americans up to the fact that we're in the midst of the greatest economic transformation in our country's history, and we need big solutions like a freedom dividend of $1,000 a month. I'm thrilled that Tulsi embraced it and that other candidates, including Joe Biden, said that the fourth industrial revolution is a major problem.
This was the most sort of detailed conversation about your proposal we've had thus far, reflective of the fact perhaps that you've got some staying power. You've climbed in the polls.
Yes.
You're going to be there next month.
Thank you, Yang Gang.
But obviously you have some disagreements, especially with Senator Warren there, about sort of the root of the problem and how it should best be addressed.
Well, Elizabeth and I are aligned on a lot of the problems, and we have different approaches, but very similar goals. And so I'm confident that we'll be able to come together and figure out which tool set we need to use to try and solve some of these problems in the days ahead.
The issue of impeachment has been kind of hovering over everything, and in the opening question, you kind of used it to pivot directly back to the issues that you want to talk about. What are you hearing when you're campaigning about this issue? I mean, you were campaigning as an outsider. You're not in Congress. Are you hearing much about this, and is this something that you think Democrats should be focused on?
I'd say I've had maybe a dozen events since impeachment got started, and I have literally received 0 questions about impeachment at these town halls around the country. Voters are more focused on the vision we have for them and how we're going to improve their lives than we are what's going on in Washington.
You were not asked about the Supreme Court or the expanding the size of the Supreme Court. There was a group, Demand Justice, which is one of these liberal groups pushing for change in the court system, especially today, put out a list of potential shortlist justices. I don't know if you've had a chance to see this. It has people like the California Attorney General, Javier Becerra, a bunch of people who work at the ACLU and the NAACP. Would you be willing to put out a list of potential Supreme Court nominees as this campaign continues?
I don't think those lists are a must by any means. I'd be happy to present my vision for what I think the next Supreme Court justice appointees should look like. One thing I agree, and I didn't get to talk about it on stage, we should adopt term limits for Supreme Court justices. It would help depoliticize it. It would make it so that we aren't, frankly, relying upon the health of 80-plus-year-old justices in order to maintain the law of the land and the composition of the court. 18 years is a long time. And the fact is, Supreme Court justices used to retire regularly for any number of reasons. They weren't there for decades.
So how long would you have them serve?
18-year terms would be plenty for them to be free of interference, but short enough so that you'd have people coming off the court every couple of years, and so it would become much more stable and less of a political firestorm.
And why 18? We don't normally do terms and numbers divisible by 3 or 6.
Well, if you had 9 Supreme Court justices, that would mean one rotates off every 2 years.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, Mr. Yang, good to see you as always.
Great
we'll see you in Atlanta.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Elaine, back to you in New York.
All right.
Hey, Elaine.
Hi. Thank you, Mr. Yang. All right. Ed O'Keefe, Caitlin Huey Burns. We'll let you get back to corralling those candidates. Let's bring.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed. And before we go, I want to give a huge thank you to all of our God tier patrons over on Patreon.
Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang 2020. Yang Gang. Yeah.